take your seats, and I'm proud to welcome you all here to the Vrije Universiteit of Brussels. We are glad to introduce to you our Master of Ceremonies for today, Mr. Wim van Humbeek.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and attendees, as well as our YouTube spectators online. Welcome to the 4th annual Louis De Pauw and Palaeontologica Belgica Award Ceremony 2024, where the Belgian paleontological elite meet to greet. Yet again, I was asked to perform as an MC for you this afternoon, and who of course could say no to Anthony's deep blue eyes and the creative Chardonnay. So it is with great pleasure that I stand here on stage, accompanied by Palaeontologica Belgica, a vivid organization of scientists and enthusiasts such as myself, who will indulge you in this year's paleontological news and realizations this afternoon. As there will be no intermission this year, the ceremony will be slightly shorter compared to the previous edition. I simply got too thirsty back then. But all jokes aside, I'm happy to give the floor to our first speaker, Mr. Anthony Hellemond, President and powerhouse of the team.
Thank you very much, Wim, for this wonderful introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we missed a few slides here. This is Wim van Humbeek in a more leisureful suit, as you can see. Ladies and gentlemen, dear laureates, friends, families, and people joining us online via our live stream. On behalf of our organization, I would like to welcome you all to the 4th edition of this award ceremony. Now, last year I gave a presentation on the history of citizen science, as well as the difficulties and the challenges that come along with it. And I cannot emphasize enough that citizen science is still, to this day, a work in progress in Belgium, and also in many other countries. Yet, on the other hand, we should also be aware that efforts have been made by organizations such as CIVIL, the Flemish Platform for Citizen Science, that is, national research institutions, universities, and many other organizations. This to promote, support, or facilitate citizen science or citizen science-driven research. Well, as a result of that, we currently have quite a number of projects running on federal and regional levels. And I think that overall we can say that as a country, we are doing quite okay. Now, prior to the creation of these centers for citizen science, jobs and other initiatives, our country also already had quite a large base of independent researchers working in different domains, like paleontology, for example. And behind me, you can see a few pictures of some famous Belgian citizen scientists in paleontology, whose contributions, mainly in the second half of the 20th century, have been quite important. From left to right, we have Georges Waters, Jean-Claude Lepage, and Roland Meurs. All of them, unfortunately, passed away too soon. And although they are not around us anymore and here today to be awarded on this stage, their legacy has not been forgotten by the paleontological community. And to this list, I could add many more names, and I gladly keep this for a separate presentation in the coming years. However, with this example, I just want to illustrate that within the field of paleontology, we are quite lucky here to have such a strong community of citizen scientists. And today I was happy to see that in the new EOS special that just came out today, there was a large interview with our former laureate, Mr. Frederik Mollen. And it's good to see that, paleontology is being promoted in the media. And however, I don't know if the journalist who wrote the article of Friedrich Moller is around us here today, or maybe following us online. You know, I would make a small suggestion. Well, that is, you know, don't talk about amateurs in mainstream media. We are talking about citizen scientists here. And, you know, especially referring to somebody as Friedrich Moller, our previous laureate, who is an international reference person for biological and paleontological research and modern ichthyology as well. Don't refer to them as hobbyists or amateurs. These are real researchers. These are real people who do research, groundbreaking research on an international scale, an international level. So these are just researchers. Okay? Don't call them amateurs, because, you know, especially in EOS, which is a magazine that really pushes initiatives in citizen science like Iedereen Wetenschapper, I think it's a fair thing to do, to use the right terminology and the right definitions in that perspective. So, okay. Let's all banish the word amateur from now. If people are doing research, they are researchers despite of them doing it professionally or non-professionally. Okay? And you know, this is true when you know, we compare our situations to, you know, here in Belgium, when we compare it to Italy, for example. There the situation is quite problematic, I should say, because the community in Italy, there is no citizen scientist community. Because the law there in Italy forbids that collections, paleontological collections, mineralogical collections, geological collections, are prohibited to be gathered by collectors, by people who want to or who are maybe interested in performing research. Well, the law forbids any collection of that. So basically, the research is only meant for people within the academic realm. So not for outsiders. And therefore, there is a community of people, you know, studying paleontology in Italy, but they live in total obscurity. There is virtually no chance of developing an enduring or long-lasting collaborations with the academic realm. And, you know, you will find that this protectionistic approach does not allow for the organic genesis of research collaborations, which, of course, we regret profoundly. And this is why we should value, I think, what we have here today, and strive to promote at any given opportunity citizen science-driven initiatives and research. It is our hope that, leading by example, we might one day be picked up by policymakers who will have the courage to implement this within regional or national law. But in the meantime, we strive for inclusion and openness in our scientific field, inside and outside of our borders. Now, initiatives like today, the award ceremony, are an important tool, I think, in setting up a system for the valuation of citizen scientists and professional researchers invested in citizen science-driven research, who unfortunately still suffer from a lot of prejudices, as I explained last year. Now, dear friends, we find ourselves here at the University of Brussels to celebrate two fantastic researchers, two individuals who have invested a large part of their lives in paleontological research, outreach, and education. We are truly honored to welcome both of you into the Hall of Paleontological Researchers who made a substantial impact on Belgian paleontology. And the ceremony and these awards are not just something that we distribute as a scientific research organization. No, they are a token of respect from the entire paleontological community within our country. Our scientific advisory board consists of representatives from all Belgian universities, federal and regional research initiatives, associations, organizations, and industry, who agreed that you deserve this award for all the work that you have done and hopefully will continue to do in the future. We truly hope that you will have a very pleasant afternoon, because today we will celebrate your life and work to which we as a community will pay our respects. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Anthony, for this opening statement. I could not agree more. As you just heard, the decision on today's laureates is not a decision taken by a divine force or a godly entity who sends lightning down to the earth and lets the names of the laureates appear in stone. After all, we find ourselves at the Free University of Brussels. As Anthony already said, a scientific advice council is assembled each year with representatives of the entire paleontological community in Belgium. Representatives from industry, academia, government and associations have to decide each year upon which laureates shall be selected. And today I have the honor of welcoming the President of the Scientific Advice Board, as well as Vice President of Palaeontologica Belgica Luxemburga Scientia et Professionis, Mr. Nuno da Silva, to the stage. Mr. da Silva, the floor is yours.
Thank you for the introduction. Hello, everyone. So my name is Nuno da Silva. So I'm the vice president of the main, or maybe the only, well, no, the only geological association in Belgium, which name is, as you can see, that's not my slide. So that's the next one. Okay, sorry. Okay. The name of the association, as you can see, is Geologica Belgica Luxemburga, Scientia et Professionis. So I think we will all agree this is a very sexy name. I will tell you about a little bit, but mainly that we are planning to select a new name for our association. So first of all, I would like to thank Anthony and Palaeontologica Belgica for the invitation. So it's a great opportunity we have here to introduce GBLSB. I will do it shortly, don't be worried. So sorry I forgot to put my name on this slide, so Nuno da Silva again. GBLSB, GBL stands, as you can see, Geologica Belgica Luxemburga, so you can easily understand that we are a national association, but also even a binational association, since we are covering both Belgium and Luxembourg, and this is from the very early times of our association. So we are representing geologists, geoscientists in general, and like I said, Belgium and Luxembourg. So we have two branches in the association. We have what we call professional. So in the name professionis comes from there. And we are also having a non-professional branch with members, which can be academics, researchers, or just citizen scientists. I think it matches perfectly what Anthony was explaining. So as you can see in our definition, university professor is not what we call a professional geologist. So being professional and doing research, proper research, doesn't have anything to do. I think we are perfectly in accordance on that definition. So yes, so we have a series of objectives that I will describe afterwards, but one of those objectives is to promote geology. And this is perfectly, again, aligned on what Palaeontologica Belgica does. Citizen science and scientists are very welcome in our association. So the collaboration with Palaeontologica Belgica is one of the many collaborations we have with associations in Belgium, but also international. And so we were glad to, in the last couple of years, to have closer contacts with Anthony and to have participated to the selection of the medalist for this Louis De Pauw award. So where does our association come from? Actually, it was founded quite recently, end 2022. And this has been a long process of merging two Belgian existing associations. One was Geologica Belgica, which was an association open to everyone in Belgium or having a link with Belgium and being interested by geology, so non-professional mainly, and what we call the BLUG, Belgian-Luxembourg Union of Geologists, which was strictly oriented to the professional geologists in Belgium and Luxembourg. So after a long process and various trials to merge those two associations, because as you know, Belgium is quite a small country, and in addition, we have various languages, so it creates situations where it's difficult to attract people, and you have to have a decent number of people, of members, giving us enough weight. So it was a project tried by several generations of members, which was finally succeeded, like I said, here in 2022, and we are glad to. And so the GBLSP is today combining all the activities of the former associations, and is today empowered and redynamized thanks to a larger number of people, more members able to help and act with us. So we are very glad of this. You see at the bottom the former logos, and you can understand that the new logo on the top left is trying to merge a bit what we had before. So the name of it, like you see here, one of the former associations was Geologica Belgica, and the plug was also addressing the Luxembourgese, it's Grand Duchy of Luxembourg, yeah? To be clear. So we try to merge both without creating too much arguments and conflicts, because I think in Belgian geological world, you have a lot of people which are trying to defend their thing, which is not my way of seeing things. I think we have to try to be open. And so, in place of initiating long arguments on what should be the name, and so we try to make it simple and have everyone glad of keeping, in a way, the former references. But like I said, we do think that we have to identify a new name for the association in order to be more attractive also for young people. One of the problems we have in such an association is that the average age of the members tend to be quite high, so which is not a good thing for the future, as we all understand. We need a mix. Okay, what's the main objectives of GBLSP? So obviously it gathers the objectives of a non-professional association and a professional association. So these are mainly the objectives of the original Geologica Belgica. So it's contribute to the development of geosciences and their applications, disseminate scientific communications and research results, so both in Belgium and Luxembourg, but also all over Europe. So again, this is perfectly aligned with I think, the objectives of Palaeontologica Belgica. So in order to achieve those objectives, amongst the things, the activities we are doing, we have a journal publication, we organize conferences, we have also awards and distinctions, namely Dumont and Van den Broek Medal. We organize also master days, so master days for the students to present their master, and we give a prize. So that's not a complete exhaustive list, it's just the main ones, I would say. More on the professional side, we try to represent and defend the geoscientific professions and also the professionals, so through in front of Belgium, but also Luxembourg, public administrations and authorities. And we contribute to the geologist's professional development. Again, that's examples, organizing field trips, organizing workshops, when the participants can receive credits for continuous development. We organize, in the last couple of years, lunch and learn webinars with a lot of success. We organize also a job day every year, or every other year, no, I'm not sure anymore. Try to alternate French-speaking and Dutch-speaking university in Belgium. So job day where the master's students can come and meet with potential employers. Actually, it's people looking really for geologists. So many people find a job before the end of their studies. I think it's very important. Personally, for example, the reason I joined the blog at that time is because I found that it was not that easy to find your way to find a job as a geologist in Belgium. And so they were already helping at that time on that aspect. So obviously, the activities I have here are overlapping of the ones which are non-professional. Typically, conferences, for example, can target a professional or a non-professional public or both. So it's trying to categorize the things. And the last point I have here is the direct collaboration we have with the European Federation of Geologists, EFG. So EFG is an association which is gathering geological national associations in Europe. And so GLSP is part of EFG. And so that's very important for us because it's opening us to a wider public, but also giving us opportunities to participate to a series of events. And so our members are kept informed of all those activities of the EFG. So I spoke about collaboration of GLSP with Palaeontologica Belgica, but you see we have many others. The Rock Mechanics Association, IENet, it's a geotechnical network mainly on the Flemish side, with the URB. We don't have much collaboration today because there is no geological studies in the VUB. We develop also collaboration with Geoparks organization, Nautilus. It's more totally. That's typically the kind of association which is citizen scientist association mainly based in Ghent, and then European Federation of Geologists. That's the main one we do have for many years. So where we participate to council meetings. We have a national vetting committee in Belgium and Luxembourg because one of the interests of EFG that they have a title, the Eurogeo title, where you need to meet a series of I would say quite strict criteria. One of them is 10 years experience as a professional geologist. So we have a vetting committee which makes a pre-assessment of the candidate prior to growth at the EFG level. We also have, EFG has experts working groups on a series of topics. So we try also to have people involved from Belgium. And as a last example I have here, in 1 month, more or less, there will be a kind of a round table organized by EFG at the EU Parliament, where it will be discussed the importance of geology in the series of challenges that we will have in the next 10 to 20 years, including environmental challenges. So as an example, I will be participating to this, as well as one of our mining experts, because some of the topics are related to mining. Yes, and another important output of our being a member of EFG is the European Union projects. So you may or probably have heard about a framework projects of EU, and so we participate to those projects for the last 10 years. Yes, 10 years, always through EFG. And so those are some of the examples of the projects. RoboMiner, Reflect, CRM, Geothermal, CEGS. And so we try to, we have to manage our part of the project, but mainly we have to identify an expert from Belgium and or from Luxembourg, sometimes it's several experts, which are going to do our part of the task. And typically it's collecting data, feeding a database. So as GBLSP, our objective on this is really to bring good quality data to those projects for Belgium and Luxembourg. But so from the beginning, from 10 years ago, we have participated, or we still participate, to a total of 10 projects with EFG. Those are the current projects we are participating to. So today, EU called it Horizon projects. In the past, it was H2020 projects. So Horizon project, like I said, we have 4 ongoing. RoboMiners and Reflect, we are through the end. So the topics are various topics. RoboMiners, for example, it was a project which objective was to identify solutions, technical solutions, to be able to explore abandoned mines, mainly drone mining. You know, we stopped pumping, and then the mine is completely droned. And is there an interest of potentially restart exploitation of that mine because of strategical resource, metal, or whatever. So that was the objective of that one, for example. CRM Geothermal is ongoing. On that one, the point was when you produce energy, geothermal energy from a well, is there a potential opportunity to produce some of those critical metals from the water you are pumping? So it's for open systems. Just examples, CEGS. We have now a new project called MyRich, which is approved by the GBLSP board. And very lately, I didn't put it here, a last one is now added to the list, which is called Farmer's Biz, which, to be frank with you, doesn't have a direct link with geology. But again, it's information from Belgium and Luxembourg that needs to be fed to that database, and we are glad to participate to that. On CRM Geothermal, as an example, we finalized recently the dissemination of information and making publicity to the secondary schools for a video contest on geothermal. So we promoted this video contest on whole Belgium, on all the secondary school networks, I would say, and also in Luxembourg. So just to give a few examples of coming activities we do have in GBLSP, we have an international conference, which is organized every other year. This year is in Liège. The Master Day in Ghent was done then with presentation of 8 students, masters. We have a city excursion related to geology and archaeology in the city of Ghent. Yes, end of November, we have then the Van den Broek medal in Liège. The Geoscience Advocacy Roundtable I told you about in the Parliament, which is not only limited to the board of GMLSP. We also disclose that announcement through all our network, so including master students, as an example. But so, job day will be in ULB in mid of next week. So that's just examples of our activities. And so, if you are interested, you can join GBLSP. You are very welcome. Like I said, you don't need to be a geologist, a professional geologist, to join the scientist branch of it. The basic fee is 45 euros. So we have a site, internet site. So you are very welcome. So that's all I have for today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Da Silva, for that fine disquisition. As the clock strikes 2, I would very much like to call forward Mr. Sten Everard. Sten, a very accomplished citizen scientist in paleontology himself, made quite a name for himself with numerous papers and research projects over the last years. After completing his studies with a Master of Science in Bioscience Engineering, skilled in plant tissue culture, he's currently fulfilling the position of Scientific Secretary of the Chemical Environmental Factors Group at the Superior Health Council of Belgium. I'm already exhausted just by pronouncing it. Mr. Everard.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of Palaeontologica Belgica, Anthony Hellemond, has asked me on behalf of the organization committee to introduce this year's laureate of the Louis De Pauw Award. During recent years, the paths of the laureate and myself have crossed regularly, both in science, but our paths also crossed in friendship. Outlining this will make it clear why the award of this year is well spent to the laureate. My earliest memory of the laureate dates back to the prehistorical times, before the dominance of social media. Starting in 2008, at the age of 12, I logged on to the internet forum of the well-known Dutch-Flemish website fossil.net, and this version, it's a fossil itself. A place where beginners, at a time like me, and also advanced fossil collectors could exchange knowledge and experiences. It was not too difficult to bump into posts by a forum administrator with the username Somniosus. The latter distinguished himself from all other members by his thorough scientific argumentations when he tackled questions about fossil convictions. I'm sure that I will not be the only one in this room who got to know the laureate in that way. The help he still offers to collectors, not only online but also in real life, for example on the fossil fair of Saint-Gilles-Waas, and the triage for referral of interesting fossil finds to the professional and the academic scientific community, well, that is an important mission of the laureate as a citizen scientist. These continuous efforts strongly contributed to his reputation as an authority in the Low Countries regarding paleoichthyology. It was in 2009 that the laureate took his first steps in academic paleontology with the publication of his research paper, The Presence of Megagasma in the Neogene of Belgium, First Occurrence in Europe. And of course, Mr. Da Silva, this paper was published in our beloved journal, Geologica Belgica. At that time, publishing as a non-professional in an academic journal was still very unusual in our country. And together with a laureate of the past years, Frederick Moll, we consider this year's laureate as a true pioneer in this period. Meanwhile, we are 10 peer-reviewed papers further on a wide range of topics, from complete Eocene Chondrichthyan faunas to an unknown squaliform tooth from the Pliocene Cattle Lake Formation in Antwerp. Gradually, a particular interest emerged with the laureate in sand-type sharks. Indeed, the two families, Odontaspididae and the Carchariidae, the latter family was recently reconsidered as a separate valid family due to the genomic research, which is unknown for us in paleontology, of course. It is needless to say, but these two families are very difficult groups in shark teeth, and their teeth often end up in one big waste bin bag in amateur collections. So this interest of the laureate, together with his fondness for the older Paleogene faunas, I think we can expect in the next years some interesting research results in that regard. Now, back to my story, and now you will all be surprised by the change in the years.
Aim towards the computer.
The photo is talking itself. Back to my story with the laureate. There is a physical change during the years. I think for myself it is a better change. This pictures date from 2013, 11 years ago. We went fossil hunting together for the first time. And not just in any place, but it was in the well-known sand quarry of Belgium. Traditionally, everyone was refused entry, and I don't know if it is still the case, but the laureate got in there easily because of his good contacts with the owners for many years. Fun fact, this was not always the case, because as an adolescent, he was chased out of the quarry with a shotgun. Indeed, the good old days. It was not our last trip. Many sites followed. I think about the Ypres of Egem to forgotten clay pits of the Oligocene in the Waasland region. However, more important were our joint excursions to the Miocene of Antwerp in close contact with skilled locals like Mark Bosselaars, also a laureate of the past years, and also with Christian Hoedemakers. And let it be clear, Christian, in about an hour, I think, you will too receive an award. Congrats for that, because you have more than earned it. On my turn, the trips to Antwerp encouraged me, just like the laureate did before, to publish my own insights. And the laureate has always encouraged me to do this, providing advice and support as a true mentor. And like you can read it, a mentor is someone who sees more talent and ability within you than you see in yourself, and he helps bring it out of you. Indeed, he did just like his own mentor, the late Dr. Jacques Herman. Jacques Herman, for whom the laureate did a lot of things in the last years of Jacques' life, together with Jacques' caring neighbor, and this shows that the respect that the laureate had for Jacques was not only a paleontological thing, but it was, again, also a thing of true friendship. And my respect for that. Scouting new talent and helping to take it to the next level, the laureate has done it several times with multiple persons, because I see a lot of people and in this room who had this experience with the laureate. If there is one particular reason why the laureate of this year deserves this award, it is this reason. Let me end this introduction in a funny but a rather philosophical way. If I have to compare the laureate to an animal, he is like his favorite pet, a cat. smart but stubborn. He does not write scientific articles to push up his own personal statistics. And no one will be able to force him to research something unless that comes from his own irrepressible curiosity. That curiosity goes far beyond paleontology. Did you know that his perfectionism also manifests itself in his vast knowledge of African tribal art? It's that passion and curiosity that typifies a true scientist. And while he doesn't like too much praise given to him, I can say on behalf of a lot of friends and researchers in the Belgian paleontological community today, a big congrats with this well-deserved recognition for 30 years of passion and work. Ladies and gentlemen, I can announce you today the winner of the 2024 Louis De Pauw Award, my dear friend, Mr. Pieter de Schutter.
Good afternoon, everyone, friends, family, colleagues. Thank you, Anthony, and the committee for this award, and thank you, Stan, for the introduction. If someone had told me 30 years ago that one day I would publish about sharks, be a collaborator at the museum, having species named after me, and even receive an award at the VUB, I would have called them completely crazy. As a child of the Jurassic Park generation, I wanted to find dinosaurs. I think I might say that Steven Spielberg played a big role in all of this. I even had my notebook, similar to the one Indiana Jones used to write down his observations. However, I realized very quickly that where I lived, in the small town of Leden, fossil shark teeth would be a much better option. So at the age of 15, I took my bike and went to Belgium to find my first set of teeth. And for many years, I rushed to every available central clay pit in Belgium and surrounding countries, ending with a collection of shark teeth ranging from the Albion to the Pliocene. And sadly also half a broken back. Oops. Yeah, my two partners in crime. Seems you are getting old. Mill, the Netherlands, was perhaps the most unique method of collecting I ever did. And at the same time, it was a top example of a fruitful cooperation between collectors and the landowner. And hot or freezing, it didn't really matter. I simply had to go. It was like gold fever. That's a good example of what not to do. And I'm not talking about the cigarette. It was not surprisingly former laureate Mark Bosselaars who introduced me in the Antwerp Navy 25 years ago. It was Christian Hoedemakers, by the way, the Palaeontologica Belgica laureate of this year, who advised me to contact Mark. Well, Mark turned out to be one of the most gentle people I have ever met, and I'm grateful for his guidance in helping me grow. He was and still is someone we can always count on. Oops. And also, by the way, Christian Hoedemakers, I guess he saw my potential very early and he pushed me forward all the time. Some years later, an unknown and very unusual shark tooth recovered from the revered sand deposits in the Antwerp harbor was brought to my attention. which we identified as belonging to a fossil megamouth shark. It represented the first specimen known to have been found in Europe. This resulted, as Dan already pointed out, resulted in my first peer-reviewed paper in 2009. Which flew. Also, the first about this enigmatic shark. As 10 years later, and totally unexpected, a single specimen was found by Stan, by the way, during the excavations for the new Argenta building in Antwerp City. And this unique early Miocene tooth represented the first in situ specimen from not-revered strata in Belgium. So in 2020, a second paper was published to report and discuss this specimen together with equally importantly the stratigraphy of the outcrop. The dozens of strips to Balagen and Oosterzelen, which was somehow my backyard, sampling the Eocene latest information, resulted, of course, in a large collection. So in 2009, we made a collector's guide with a focus on figuring multiple teeth for each species based on the position in the jaw, and each specimen photographed from 3 or 4 sides. It was a book that became very popular and until today still in use by many collectors as a standard identification guide for the Belgian Eocene. Very early in Doel, my fellow collectors called me Mr. Soniosus, because each time I found 1 or 2 large squaliform teeth. Don't tell them, it had something to do with mesh lights. It was back home that I noticed several morphologies in the sample, recognizing Centrophorus, but much larger specimens than classic modern ones. So another paper was born, published in Louis Belgica in 2012. Shortly after comparing the lesmo branch fauna from 2 successive clashes of Eocene age exposed at Market Rapid, we observed a significant link between the different elitology of these levels and a lesmo branch community structure. Again, this resulted in a paper, this time with Arna Izebit. And then several thousands of Miocene serrated macro teeth, the so-called Isurus escheri, allowed us to reconstruct its evolutionary pattern via 4 consecutive morphotypes, which helps in understanding and verifying the origin of the great white shark. Published in Cenozoic Research 2021. And this paper would never have been possible without the effort and ideas of my good friend René van der Liet. Two other friends. Two other friends discovered a large piece of driftwood in our famous Oligocene clay deposits. And what started as a simple description of an associated set of Carcharias shark teeth found around the trunk evolved into a multi-paper joint efforts between collectors, citizen scientists, and professional scientists, describing the first well-documented case of woodfall in the rebellion of the North Sea basin. This lens contained a large set of compartmental plates of a new species of turtle barnacle, turning out to be the best preserved plates of the genus known to date. And furthermore, 2 new species of Tereos fishes were described by Christian Hoedemaker. And I participated, of course, in several papers about Antwerp geology and paleontology, which is, as you all know, a never-ending story. But okay, enough of myself, because as Stan already said, I don't like to praise myself too much. I need to thank a lot of people, especially my mentor, Jacques Hermand. Because without him, I wouldn't be the same person. He learned me to see. He learned me to open my eyes and to not only focus on my sharks, but to look at the whole picture. He was a friend whose open mind learned me that not every scientist is a grumpy old man. Sorry. He was perhaps a rebel, loved by many and hated by some. But at the end, looking at his career, I think we can only be proud. And we all know the meaning of a citizen scientist. But as Dan already said, for me there is an additional meaning. It's an extra mission which is helping and inspiring the community. It's all about motivating people. And since I started my website 20 years ago, I receive, on being active on social media at that time, I receive almost on a daily basis requests for identifying shark teeth. And on some occasions, on the Sint-Gilles Square, for instance, people sometimes get in line for my help, what I usually do for a beer. And on some occasions, I give away some buckets with unsorted sediments to new collectors in the hope it will motivate or inspire them to continue this fantastic hobby. And that's what I always try to do, what I'm still doing. And some of these people are present today, and I'm sure at least one of them will receive this award one day. Something that would make me equally proud. And we all started as collectors. We share the passion, we are constantly in the field. So we see a lot of material, and especially we recognize interesting and important fossils. And that's also our strength. And it's our role and our strength, something trying to be a bridge between regular collectors and professionals. It was a small, tiny and broken Oligocene bird bone in my collection proved to belong to the oldest heron in the world, and was named after me, while the description of some important Paleocene bird bones is still in the pipeline. And another unusual fossil in my collection turned out to be an extremely rare dorsal brain case of an angel shark. It was later described by former laureate Frederik Molle. And I was once in the basement of a collector's home when I noticed some broken teeth on the table, and asking for what purpose, he replied, "These were teeth to give away to children," which is a good initiative, but I recognized the tooth of Housteinia. It was a species which had never been imported from Belgium before. And having a good relationship with the collectors community is important. When I was sampling the Deurne sands some years ago, I noticed a large hole in the finalized hole. I checked my contacts to find out who did it. I called him and asked him politely but firm to come over and fill it up. Well, he lived 1.5 hours away, but he came and filled up the hole. It's respect from both sides. I'd like to finish with a funny quote. It was when visiting the Rumstedt clay pit some years ago. One of the geologists asked us if we really took a day off at work to come and play in the mud. And that is who we are. And that's what we do. It's not a job, it's not a hobby, it's a passion. And I'm glad I can share this passion with all of you. Et voilà. The future is assured, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter. And of course, this lovely award is gifted to you, and there shall be a lovely photograph as well.
Another round of applause, please.
Of course.
And the stone is from the quarry where you first started your career. It's from Belgium, original, and cut to metal. So,
Great, thank you. Thank you.
thank you very much.
Very thoughtful. No, not a little round.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
So congratulations again, Peter, with that much-deserved award. As we have crossed the halfway point of this enjoyable afternoon, I would like to move on now to our second award of the day, the award for professional researchers. This also gives me the opportunity to highlight that this ceremony is about building bridges between citizen scientists and professional or academic researchers. Far better placed to elaborate about this subject is Mr. Kevin Noornis, Secretary of Palaeontologica Belgica, who will be introducing our next laureate for this lovely award. Take it away, Kevin.
Dear friends and fellow paleontologists, it is my great privilege today to introduce this year's Palaeontologica Belgica laureate. This honor is bestowed upon someone who not only harbors a profound passion for paleontology, but also nurtures an extraordinary love for books. While this may not be an uncommon combination in the world of science, in this case it rises to the level of true bibliophilia. I personally vividly recall my days as a teenager just beginning to explore the vast world of paleontology. The quest for relevant literature consumed so much time and effort. Many publications were either impossible to find, out of print, prohibitively expensive, or the information they contained was outdated. I suspect this experience is familiar to many of you. The man I am about to introduce has in many ways changed this landscape, dedicating not only his time and energy, but his entire life to this pursuit, both professionally and personally. While Christian Boedemakers is well known for his meticulous research on otoliths, a subject I believe him the honor to present, it is through his literary endeavors that I first became truly aware of his remarkable contributions. A few years ago, when I served as the secretary of the Belgian Paleontological Society, BVP, it became evident that Christian, together with its founders, was a driving scientific force behind the organization during its first 2 decades. Thanks to his tireless efforts, the BVP grew into a distinguished knowledge center, boasting a specialized library that rivaled the most esteemed scientific institutions in our country at that time. His contributions were not always universally appreciated back then, but I would like to rectify today by affirming without hesitation that this role in shaping the BVP was monumental. But Christian's impact did not stop here. Around the turn of the millennium, he founded Paleo Publishing and Library, an independent publishing house and specialized library. As he himself proudly states, this non-profit initiative seeks to unite both professional and non-professional paleontologists. And it is this unifying spirit, bridging the world of citizen scientists and professionals, that truly sets Christian apart. He has demonstrated how each of us, whether through our expertise or passion, can contribute to a broader understanding of paleontology and, in this case, etiology. At Palaeontologica Belgica, we hold the motto, science thrives through collaboration in highest regard. And our activities are grounded in 4 guiding principles: contributing to science, encouraging citizen science, promoting education, and protecting our paleontological heritage. Through his extensive work, both academically and within the various associations, Christian Boedemakers has embodied each of those pillars. And though some who might have voiced their support are no longer with us, many who are present today can attest to the profound impact he has had on them personally and on the field as a whole. This is why Christian Boedemakers is more than deserving the Palaeontologica Belgica award today. For many, it remains an elusive dream to turn their passion into their profession or their profession into their passion. But Christian Boedemakers has achieved both. From publishing to paleontology, or perhaps it is the other way around. Much like the age-old paradox of the chicken and the egg, we might wonder which came first for Christian, his love for paleontology or his love for books. As paleontologists, we can confidently say, long before either, there was the fish. As for the rest, I will let Christian answer that himself. It is with great pride that I now invite Christian Boedemakers to take the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to my talk. Members of the jury, thank you very much for nominating me for awardee of the prize for this year. Thank you very much. But how did it all begin? As you can see on the slide, my life is situated between books and otoliths, and whichever came first, as Kevin said, I can't remember, to be honest. So on the left you see what we have been doing for the past 25 years. We published a lot of books, most of them written by citizen scientists who did a profound research which ended in a technically and content-wise superior work. And I can tell you indeed, with a bit of pride, that our books are appreciated all across the world. And on the other side, you see a cabinet which contains otoliths of fish. These otoliths are collected by Dirk Lomp, it's not my collection, and it's the largest collection in the world. So, how did it actually all begin? Well, it's almost obligatory that it began in the garden of my parents when I was living many, many years ago. Once upon a time when they asked me to dig a hole to plant a bush of roses. And then, of course, I found the obligatory shark tooth. It was in this area called Vrende, in the Flemish Campaign area, where it was found. And only later I realized it was a tooth, now lost unfortunately, that came out of the reworked Willow Formation. But that was the very first one. Then I deepened my interest in paleontology and fossils by going to university. And in university I was able to combine my interest in books and in otoliths, or rather paleontology in general, as otoliths were almost no part of any course. So at university I was taught the principles of good, sound scientific research and practice. And I do remember that our professors in those days, they told us, well, if you want to be a good scientist, you have to do a lot of things. You have to document whatever you do, whatever you observe in the field. So you keep a field diary. And he added, when you make a drawing of a section, or if you make a photograph, see to it that you have some kind of scale to measure. So we duly did that as well. And then he went on and he said, whatever you study after you collect it, you always have to go back to the source. And the source is the books, the literature. And he added, dear students, start investing in books. So, unfortunately, I did this. And I say unfortunately because it's an investment which took up almost 2 houses after all these years. And as a last result, he said, always be critical of your own work and of the work of other people. So we try to be a bit more lenient in that respect. So I guess everybody knows what books are, but maybe some of you are not aware of what otoliths are. It seems something strange as being of outer space, but no, you don't find it in space, you find it in the ground. And the otoliths you find a nice example of an old ancient otolith, which is 15-20 million years old. We find them as if they were derived from recent fish, because otoliths are in the head of fish, not all fish. It's in that area of the head that otoliths can be found. So what in fact are they? They are literally translated ear stones. So they are not really bones, but stones, and they serve the same purpose in fish as they serve in other vertebrates, namely to aid hearing. So a fish can actually hear. He can hear what we say, he can hear what other fish have to tell him. Well, and these otoliths, they are quite important because with them you can identify species, which is very important in several domains of science, like fisheries, for example, and you can build up huge collections to identify your otoliths, your fossils, and that's what I did. And one of the people who was instrumental in teaching me all about otoliths, someone who was not active at university, is Dirk Lomp. That's the person in question with part of his library behind him. He too had an immense library, much larger than mine. And of course, a very important otolith collection. so once I finished studies, I went to do what you were supposed to do when you graduated. You went out into the field. So I went to the sunny south, to Spain, where I collected the first otoliths. I also went to the obligatory clay pit of Egem, where almost everybody of my generation went. That was the late 20th century, and we dug and collected whatever we could find. We found shark teeth, we found ray teeth, and we found otoliths. Now, fortunately, the ray teeth have been published by some of the most, or the best citizen scientists I have ever come across, and they have been published in our latest book, not our last book, but our latest book. You can see the cover right beneath. The otoliths have been published, by the way, by Dirk Nolf. So I continued my otolith research, and I was sent dozens and dozens of boxes of otoliths from all across Europe. They took a lot of time to identify, but eventually resulted in some publications, mostly in the Oligocene. As you know, the Oligocene is represented in Belgium and across most of northwestern Europe by clay. Clay is something that you use to make pots and statues, and you can also sieve it, but that takes a lot of effort. And it contains otoliths, it contains shark teeth and all these nice fossils. So we published about these, and we also published about other clay pits, this time in Germany, near Hamburg, a clay pit called Großpompau. It yielded a fauna which was up to then not published, so it was the first publication that became available on that subject. And this is what you can see behind you. But time moved on, and as the Iron Curtain fell at a given point, I was invited over to the former DDR to conduct some research on otoliths in what they had in certain gravel pits. In Germany, they don't have such a lithiology as we have. They have to collect a lot of data from gravel pits where gravel is being extracted to construct roads or to fabricate bricks and so on. And in these gravel pits, you sometimes find blocks of fossiliferous sandstone, and they call that Sternberger Gestein. And this kind of stone, it contains lots and lots of mollusks, but fortunately also more interesting stuff, at least for us. And we found shark teeth among them, which were published by Thomas Reinecke and his people, and we found otoliths among them, which have unfortunately not yet been published. As you can see, such a gravel pit, it looks a bit different from our clay pits or sand pits. They used huge machines to extract the sand. The sand is then sifted through a number of sieves to separate the coarse from the finer gravel, and eventually the very coarse gravel, big blocks, are thrown on big heaps like that, and that's where people can collect. And the people in Eastern Germany have been doing that for decades, but nobody in Western Europe knew about it because it was all kept secret. The government there said it was a national secret, it should not be exported, it's private knowledge. But they did after the fall. And of course, in the early days of the career, there was the inevitable callow, as we called it, the construction of all these naval docks in the port of Antwerp. And there we could find nice sediments, Pliocene, all of it, some of it Pleistocene, and a lot of work was done there to collect mollusks, including some new fossils, which were published by Marcel Vervoorne and Robert Marquette. This is a block of such fossils. It's called Atrina. It's of a group of mollusks which is now living in the Mediterranean. So it was indicative of a much warmer climate in those days in our area than at present. But one of the most important things that we were able to achieve was after I joined the BVP, that was in the prehistory, I'd say, and at one occasion I had the idea to dig a pit in Herstottenberg, because that's the area where a sand had been discovered, prior to that, 1976, if my memory serves me correct. It was discovered when laying a pipeline to conduct gas to various sites. And I thought, well, why shouldn't we expose these sediments again? And we went there and we drilled a lot of holes to find the sediments, and we found them eventually. And we were able, with the owner's permission, of course, to dig holes. Now, these holes are not just holes you dig with a spade, they were dug by big machines, and they measured at least 100 square meters each. And they went as deep as 3 to 5 meters. This is the area in Herstenberg where we dug the holes, and if anybody is familiar, that's a railroad, and it's just beyond the railroad we dug 5 holes. 3 were dug in one single field, and 2 were dug in a field just a bit away, because we thought, well, we have to try several possibilities. And as you can see, it attracted a lot of people. All these people went to the spoil heaps, they collected sand and sediment, and they started sitting. Most of the people used small sieves. But there were people there from Naturalis Leiden, and they told us, Ariansen among them, how to do some real big job in collecting. So we had 2 of these sitting tables installed, and with that we could treat a few tons of sediment per day. So all in all, in these 5 holes we dug, we sieved about 150 tons of sand. That was in the period 1989 to 2001, and unfortunately almost no paper has been forthcoming after that, apart from a small paper on the otoliths. Because what we discovered, and now I go back 1 slide, yes, is that the stratigraphy of this field was slightly different from the stratigraphy of the second field. Although both sides are at perhaps 100 meters air distance. So how could it be? In one side we found a layer of a meter thick coquina, dense packed shells, and in the other we found only 30 centimeters of the same and much less, and sediment which was much less fossiliferous, but it contained a layer with corals. So a short publication came forth, and it published the section. Incidentally, on the left side you see a picture indicating one of the most important people who taught me about mollusks. That's Robert Marquette. He taught me how to recognize mollusks. I mean, not to recognize the shells like bivalves or gastropods, but how to recognize them and interpret them in, let's say, in means of ecology, in bathymetry, for example, or climate. And the only paper on otoliths forthcoming from these excavations is the one that introduced a new species to science. Because prior to that, Dirk Nom had published the whole fauna. But here's a bit wrong, it was not the whole fauna, but much of the work still has to be done. Later on, we also dug a hole at Edegem near the stratotype, and this was to be repeated in the winter of 2008-2009, when, by pure chance, a hospital in the area had to build a new center for revalidation of its patients, and they dug a hole quite deep, fortunately 5 meters. Unfortunately, it was winter, so work did not progress as much as we would have loved to, but we were able to conduct a lot of collecting, and we drew 2 sections, which are very similar, both because they're very near to the stratotype. You can see both sections there. They have been published recently. And smaller projects include other pits, like pits that were dug by the Dutch work group for tertiary and quaternary geology at Miste near Winterswijk, where these people, who served mostly as the example of how to do such work or similar work in Herstenberg, we went there as well and collected material in the pits they dug at Miste on a few occasions. And we also did other work in, most recently it was in Putte near Mechelen, where we saw another exposure of the Zonderschot sands, and we took samples there, and we hope to produce a paper on that sooner or later. But what would you do with fossil otoliths if you do not have anything to compare with? If you find a fossil shark teeth, You just take a shark, you take out its teeth, and you start comparing. If you find a recent mollusk, you go to the sea, you collect recent mollusks, and you compare your finds with the recent ones you find in the sea. So we have to do the same. I collect fossil otoliths, and you can't compare any fossil otolith unless you have recent material available. So we, from time to time, go to the sea on a boat, and we collect recent fish. And from these fish, we extract the otoliths. And I show you a few otoliths. Yes, one on the top is of a herring, and at the bottom it's of I forgot, a sand eel, I think the word is in English. And just to have an idea of what fish we sampled them from, I put a picture of each of the species in the middle. So on the top you find an image of a herring, how a herring looks. I think you all know what a herring looks like, but this one is quite small. It's only 8 centimeters. They also exist, and they have beautiful otoliths. And below that is an image of a sand eel, which we collected on the same day. So, although in paleontology you do not use DNA, which is a pity, but it's unavoidable, we tend to collect a lot of DNA from recent specimens. Why do we do this? Well, for one thing, we know that otoliths in the fossil record, they represent species whose descendants still live today. And by means of DNA, we can reconstruct what is called a phylogenetic tree, so basically a family tree of what the fishes may have looked like before, or at least we can see how old the family was by reconstructing with the so-called molecular clock. So in order to reconstruct all the relationships between the fishes, we collect DNA of recent fish. We can use it only partly in paleontology, unfortunately, because, as you know, fossils do not have any DNA. But apart from collecting otoliths, as Kevin told us so succinctly, books are also a passion. And I did not start a collection of books, I simply needed a lot of books. So that collection grew and grew, and in the end, people came to me and said, why do you not publish anything yourself on fossils? We have manuscripts, we have collected with you, we have collected with other friends, we have a manuscript available, why don't you publish it? Well, that's easier said than done, but it took almost 2 years of preparation, and in the year 2000, by pure coincidence, we had our first volume published. Paleontology 1, published on shark teeth from mites. Of course, inevitably shark teeth. If you are in the circle of paleoichthyologists, they will always come to you with shark teeth, which is very good, of course. But on the other hand, I also have friends who collected mollusks, and these are shells. And these people too are still very active, and they also have beautiful books and manuscripts about shells. And they said, why don't you publish these? So we published books on mollusks as well. So in the 25 years that we have been busy, we have published 35 monographs in the series Paleontas. Well, it's by coincidence that the first and the latest number are about elasmoprimes, because in between we published a lot on shells. We also published one single book on otoliths. Why do you say, why didn't you publish more? Well, you need some manuscripts, otherwise you can't publish. And for some reason, that book was quite popular because it's out of print on otoliths. Thank you very much. And we were also asked by another association to join, if they could not join our association to publish, and we agreed. This was a French association based in the Museum of Paris, and they offered us Cosmaniana, which is basically a French-written journal with a lot of papers on mollusks, both from the Eocene of the Paris Basin and the Eocene and Neogene from the Aquitaine Basin. So we were able to extend a bit our offer. And in order to provide a platform for people who collected a lot of material on fossils, be it whatever topic, but which did not really contain anything new, but on the other hand provided an excellent overview of what had been found before and what is still available, we created the series Paleofocus. So in this series, it brings together the excellent work of citizen scientists who provided, through their collecting over the years, an excellent, outstanding overview of certain faunae. So the first book we published was the one by Peter and his colleagues on the shark teeth of Oosterzee, which is, as Peter outlined, very popular unto this very day. We don't have many copies left, unfortunately. And the latest book is written by a German citizen scientist who, after his retirement, went on collecting and publishing material. He's still very active, and his book and one of his next books will be published this year on the mollusk fauna of the late Miocene of Grosspampel. But none of all this work could ever have been possible without the continuous support and help in one way or another by so many people who, like me, have a passion in fossils, have a passion in collecting, and a passion in providing documentation. And I list many people here, but I'm sure I forgot a lot of people for whom I apologize. Unfortunately, some of these people, like Jacques Herman, have passed away in the meantime, because after all, I have been doing this kind of work for, well, over 40 years now, which is a long time. And I remember Jacques during my time as a student. I went over to his place one day, and he invited me to his famous garage, showing me his collection, and we talked about it. And as a student, I thought, my God, what has he achieved in his life? I will never, ever be able to do the same. Look at the books, look at the collections. And now I say, oh my God, I have done it. And I wish I hadn't. It's too much. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Christian. And of course, this well-deserved award is handed to you. Another round of applause. That goes straight to Instagram.
This will be a small photo moment. Yes?
Ah, yes, that's a good idea.
Winners. Robertange. To Eocene major building stones. Okay, a round of applause for the laureates.
Thank you very much, members of the jury.
Thank you again for our both nominees. Of course, our sincere congratulations to you, Christian, with this well-earned award. Now, I know what you're all thinking. Bring on the booze. And I don't blame you, of course. But before that, let us conclude with a fantastic keynote talk by one of Belgium's most interesting researchers in genetics, Professor Dr. Maarten Larbussot. Some of you might have seen him quite recently in the Flemish documentary series Het Verhaal van Vlaanderen, A Tale of Flanders, where he tested TV personality Tom Baas's blood on residual Neanderthal DNA. I still wonder if it was really 2.1%, or did the National Broadcasting Network impose that number. I think we'll never know. But today he will be talking about citizen science-driven research based on female genetic material in the mitochondria. The floor is yours, Professor.
Thank you very much. Okay, first of all, it's a great honor to be here, and congratulations to the laureates. I'm not a paleontologist, I'm not a geologist, I'm just a normal biologist. In fact, I'm an ichthyologist. I did my PhD and I even have a paper on otoliths, but I totally forgot it, so thanks for the reminder. I totally switched my research topic to genetic genealogy. And what I do is combining DNA from living persons and less living persons, so from skeletons and other material from archaeological researches, with genealogy and family history. And maybe, I think, most of you are interested as well in genealogy, no? Or only in paleontology also? No? We all want to know who are our ancestors, and it's one of the most famous or the most popular hobbies worldwide. And if you ask to 10 Belgians on the street, are you interested in family history? It will be 7 out of the 10 persons who will say yes. That's much more than local history, or maybe also paleontology will be 9, I think. But genealogy is very popular, and that was always the case, also in the past. People were always busy with their ancestors, but it has a bad reputation. It has a reputation of a hobby for old people, retired people who has too much time, and they want to see at the end of their life how rich their ancestors were and where it all changed. But that's not the case anymore. It's really a very fascinating hobby for also young people, triggered by TV programs like Who Do You Think You Are? Also flashing websites and of commercial businesses about genealogy like MyHeritage or Ancestry DNA, and also because of all these DNA tests which are now available. But it's a huge community, and we have a Facebook group with more than 16,000 members. It's really one of the biggest interests of Flemish people, and it's even an obsession for a lot of people. And I receive a lot of criticism in academics who says this is just an obsession, but it has also a bad thing, like everybody wants to an origin story, and it's about blood purity and stuff like that, so wrong things. But for me, it's absolutely not the case. It's science. For me, it's a study of family, of familial relationships, as a model to understand our society, and more exactly the interaction between individuals. You cannot understand even local politics without knowing all the kinship and the relatedness between people. So for me, it is a science, and people who are doing genealogy are citizen scientists, absolutely not amateurs. But for me, the main key point is what is family? Of course, it's a program on VTM. I never watched, so I don't know. But I know that there are different aspects about what is family. I have 3 kids, and if I say to you I have 3 kids, it can have different aspects. If you come with your 2 daughters, it can be legal. You are your legal father. I am the legal father of my 3 kids. I was, and I'm still married with the mother. But I'm also the social one, because this morning I still had to give food to the children before I came here. I hope I'm also the emotional, but I think so. Often they are happy to see me. I don't know if I'm the biological father. Even if I can test it in the lab very easily, I cannot do it. My wife doesn't like it. It's something about trust. Something like that. It's very easy, but I'm very fascinated by the fact how these 3 aspects, which has to be connected to each other. You can be just a social father or a plus daddy, we call it in Flemish. But I'm interested in how it changed during times. So also in the past, if you think you have it, that's just because of the wokeism, but it was not in the past. Well, watch this painting. Oh, I thought it was with a dynamic thing, but
No,
yeah. Okay. That's no problem. But the whole presentation is now. No worries. I just wanted to show you a painting, an old painting from the 16th century or 17th century, sorry, with a person who became father. He's quite old, but he has a newborn in his arms, and the mother is still laying in bed here. Oh.
I think the battery is in there.
Yeah, okay. So it's there. Then the mother is dead after giving birth, But in fact, there is a double meaning in this painting. No, someone notice it? No? Maybe the one there? No? No? There is a guy standing behind a baby, and he raises his two fingers. And I did it also on a class photo with other students, and then I thought it was a rabbit or something, or a donkey. But in fact, it's a cuckold man, it's cuckoldry. He is betrayed by his woman. He's not a biological father. You also see some sausage and it has it looks like a male, but there are children in the audience. So
reproductive organ?
Yeah, the reproductive organ. And the gesture is meaning that he's infertile. So I don't want to say anything further, but also the relationship is broken in his family, like the ex, and the only source of warmth in the bed, in the marital bed, is the warming pan. So there is no love in this family. But he was a father. There was no genetic test at that moment to prove that he is not the biological one. But nowadays we can, and we can even do it many 100 years ago, and test if he was really the biological father. And this is the genetic revolution in genealogy, and a lot of citizen scientists are also participating with just buying some commercial DNA kits. I don't like it, but in fact, it's you can spit some saliva and send it to an American company, and after a few weeks you receive your results from where your ancestors are coming from. That's all crap. Also the fact that you hear that most of 44% of your relatives have two differently sized feet. Very interesting. You really have to do a DNA test to know this kind of information. But the most important thing are these relatives, and these tests are really good in finding far related persons and also closely related persons worldwide in their database. I did it 10 years ago when there was this website, which is now used only for forensic cases in America. And I uploaded my own DNA to that database with 1 million American persons. I never thought I would have any success, but in fact I received a whole list of all persons where I have a lot of DNA in common. The first one is Gene Heiger, and Gene, it's a very cool first name for a geneticist if you are related to Gene. And Gene is from Arizona, so I emailed him. I said, come on, we have 2 parts of chromosome 3 together, in common. It's a normal email, of course, but, and he responded, I can show you my ancestors. And in fact, my great-grandparents were exactly his great-great-grandparents. But his grandfather went from Antwerp with a Red Star Line to America. And just because of that connection, we had still 2 long pieces of chromosome 3 in common. And that's fascinating, but in fact, I cannot do anything with it. It's almost all females in my line, and yeah, I only know now that I'm related to my father, but it can still be my uncle. But in fact, I really wanted to know, can I use this kind of information also to find more about biological relatedness in the past? And you can say, you can do this, but this is not that easy to do it this way. And the reason is because you don't have DNA from all your ancestors. This is a genealogy. In the middle you are there, 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, and so on. Well, after a few generations, you will only have DNA from the green ones. And all the others are your biological ancestors, but there is no genetic relationship anymore. There is no genetic connection anymore. We call them ghost ancestors. And it's quite, very soon you will receive some ghost ancestors, so you cannot use the whole genome to understand biological relatedness. But we can use 2 different genetic markers to do that, to across hundreds of years, several centuries, and that's in the mitochondrial DNA, which is linked to the maternal line, and that's in the Y chromosome, which is in the paternal line. And then you can actually look to connections and relatedness for hundreds of years. And this mitochondrial DNA, that's something strange. That's a very small part of our genome, which is not in the middle of our cell, in the nucleus of the cell, but in our mitochondria. And our mitochondrial, we only get it from our mothers. So sorry, Peter, but you don't have the same mitochondrial genome as your daughters. But that's the way how I look at all these people here. Who is connected to who, but you have your mitochondrial genome from your mother, her mother, her mother, her mother. And in fact, I thought when I have two persons with the same common maternal ancestor in direct maternal line, I can see if they still have the same mitochondrial genome. But how to find these kind of genealogies? Well, that's why I need experts in genealogy. We call them also citizen scientists. I call them experts. And I ask people to make their maternal line. Most of the genealogists, by the way, only look in paternal line because it's connected with a surname or something like that. But you can also do it in your mother line. And we ask a lot of people to look into the archives, which are now, most of the time, are digitalized, and look to some civil records and church records, and to build up their maternal genealogy. And in fact, we could, in only 6 months, we had more than 7,845 active genealogists who participated. Most of them were females, and most of them were less than 55 years old, which totally shows that it's not only older white males who are doing genealogy. And we find those kind of genealogies, which was really for me fascinating to see. People who are connected in maternal line, so the surname changed every generation, and we come here in 1691 with Maria van Maal, or Maria van Maal. And then I could check if the mitochondrial DNA was still the same for those 3 living persons, and that was the case. So we know that with this unique mitochondrial marker of those 3, we know now that the genealogies are correct and that they are reflecting the biological genealogies. This is the biggest one. I never thought we could achieve that, but thanks to citizen scientists, we could do that. These are 11 persons, all connected in maternal line, and they all have the same unique mitochondrial genome. What you see here is also that mater septa, mother is always certain, but I'm a biologist. I say mater septa, pater semper incertus, or in English, mommy's baby, daddy's maybe. So we saw in the genealogies, I could always find the connection between the maternal line and the mitochondrial DNA, which shows that the mothers were always biologically the mothers, or except for adoptions and stuff like that. But was this also the case for males? And when we look in paternal line, oh, now it works. So that's the Y chromosome is for in paternal line. And that was much easier to find persons who has the same Y chromosome or should have the same Y chromosome if their paternal line reflects their genealogical or their biological paternal line. And what we do is exactly the same as with the mitochondrial DNA. We check if 2 persons with a common paternal ancestor still has the same Y chromosome. We started already in 2009. It was 40 kilos earlier. That's me below. And the first one is actually a citizen scientist. And so it was a huge connection between genealogists and we as geneticists, and to analyze all these men who came to our talks and to our activities, and I always took some saliva or some buccal swab. And that was much easier because we have there the surname. And so people really were wanting to analyze their Y chromosome. And I always said, oh, but it can be that you will find after 40 years of all research in archives, we could say, oh yeah, but it's not a biological line. But still, people were really excited to participate as real scientists. And this is the biggest one. The biggest genealogy we found is what 31 individuals with all a similar surname, and they all are connected in 1425 with a common paternal ancestor. So they all are from West Flanders. So almost, some of them also went to Antwerp. And all of them had the same Y chromosome, except those 4 lineages. Each year they have a big family party, and now I had to say, yeah, but you don't belong here. Biologically, of course, biologically. I wanted to know more about when was it? When did it happen? It was not in the oldest genealogies. It's always very recent, and what we found, I cannot show it because of no problem. I could find that in the 19th century, you had much more extra pair paternity, because that's the scientific word. So that the father who came to the city hall and said, this is my child is born, was in fact not a biological father. Well, it was much more in the 19th century the case, and especially in large cities like Brussels, Antwerp, and where exactly in low-income families, laborers, people who worked in the industry, we found much more extra paternity. And in fact, we could find with all these citizen scientists, and here more than 2,500 families give their DNA, we could find that extra paternity was, in fact, in the 19th century in the city centers, where in low-income families was around 6%. And in small areas, in small cities, small communities, in the rural area with farmers, there you could have only 0.01% that your father was indeed a biological, not a biological father. So a huge difference in society in the 19th century. But in common, it's 1.5% you have that each generation that there was a mismatch between the biological and the genealogical father. So what we found was that in the 19th century, in this area, in the big cities, you could find a lot of extra paternity. It can be because of sexual aggression, about rapes. These were very vulnerable women. But it can also be because of betrayal, prostitution, and so on. I cannot, or we cannot, interview those people anymore, unfortunately, but by combining genealogy with genetics, we can find much more about the society in the past and how biology and genealogy, how they are connected with each other. We use all this data together with our citizen scientists in papers about evolutionary biology, of course, but also in ancient DNA, in forensic genetics, in ethics, in clinical genetics, and even in genealogy. We have tens of publications going from extra paternity to the Merovingians in Kokzijde, where we use this data we collected together with genealogists, and I really appreciate that. But what I also appreciate about citizen scientists, because when I started in 2009, every colleague at the academic said to me, you are a crazy person working with amateurs, working with persons who are not educated. And I said, yeah, but they have so much information. They have so much knowledge, much more than other academics, but then specialized to their region or their family. But something else that I really enjoyed was the emotional involvement. When you work together with scientists in the public area, so public or citizen scientists, it's really a close connection you can have. People say, yeah, but it's recognition of my work, but also it was super fun to do it with my sisters. It brought us closer to each other. I think more about my mom or my aunt or my grandmother who died very young. And so I really get a lot of appreciation, and that's for me the most important thing, next to science, of course. If you are interested, we are organizing a new citizen science project, more on illegibility, it's too long, I think it's a real drink. Illegal children in the 19th century who with unwed mothers. We want to do a project, our next project on this topic, and if you are interested, you can ask me or email me or look to our papers. It's not about paleontology or about sharks. That's for me already more than 15 years ago, but I hope you will have some interest in genealogy. You can always email me if you want more information, and I thank for your attention during this great award session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Larousseau, for that compelling lecture. Wonderful. Now we just have the closing speech ahead of us, and I can think of no one more suited for this as Mr. François de Bock, Chief Editor of Palaeontologica Belgica. So go right ahead, François.
Thank you very much. Well, the preparatory efforts and the hosting of this award ceremony may be Palaeontologica Belgica's initiative, but this initiative would be totally unfruitful without the help and support of many people, organizations, and collaborators. Let us hence shed some well-deserved spotlight on some of the most important contributors of today's event. Well, first and foremost, we would like to thank both laureates, Peter de Schutter and Christian Hoedemakers, for being themselves, and in doing so, helping our scientific board find this year's most meriting players in the Belgian paleontological field. Let's not forget to thank our laureates for their beautiful presentations and exemplary career and life stories. Well-deserved applause. Many thanks to today's guest speakers as well. We have Stan Everard and Nuno da Silva for delivering their praiseful introduction talks. All of our gratitude goes as well to our fantastic keynote speaker, Professor Dr. Larousseau, for relieving us a little bit more of our ignorance about female genetic inheritance. I think I won't die an idiot tonight, Mom, or did I just inherit that? We don't know. As custom has it, since 2021, the VUB has once again granted us their campus and has access to their campus, and has generously provided all technical assistance needed to host this ceremony in this beautiful Nelson Mandela Auditorium. Thank you very much. Thanks again as well to Palaeo, which is, okay, sorry, this one is out. We would like to thank Palaeo for supplying the Louis De Pauw Award stone and sawing it to size. We would also like to thank them for the support and permissions for scientific research in the Lutetian fossil deposits of the Middle Eocene in the quarry. Then we would also like to thank the late André Ballet, who left us in 2009 from La Thuile, near Dordogne, who is a fervent advocate and local enthusiast of the Gobertange stone, for the Paleobelt Award. Thank you very much, André. Of course, we would also like to thank the medal makers and court suppliers De Greef from Antwerp for the plaques that proudly adorn both awards. Thank you very much. A very special thanks goes out to all the members of the Scientific Advisory Board for casting their votes and contributing to the laureate selections that took off earlier this year. Let us now take a moment to thank our own crew within Palaeontologica Belgica, who have spared no effort in the preparation and accomplishment of today's event. Frédéric Lerouge for the YouTube live feed and setting up the audiovisual infrastructure. Should anyone want to re-watch this ceremony, it should be available or made available within 2 or 3 days after today's broadcast. Then we would also like to thank Ayla and Yuri, who are already pretty busy serving glasses, but they will attend to your needs with the traditional refreshments and snacks so that we can all toast to this magnificent paleontological celebration. And last but not least, a well-deserved round of applause goes out to the mastermind behind this unique initiative and the president of Palaeontologica Belgica, the one and only Anthony Helmut. Big thanks also to Sven, who is photographing the event. Have I forgotten anyone? Wim, our hosts for tonight. Let's have a round of applause as well. Thank you very much. And then also we would warm-heartedly like to thank all the attendees in the Ola for coming to Brussels on this occasion. We wish everyone a safe return, and we would like to make an appointment next year. Off to the drinks and snacks, I would say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, François. And so, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our awards ceremony. I would like to thank all of you here in the public and our online spectators for your unbridled attention. We hope to see you again next year, and we wish you a safe journey home. And as François mentioned, of course, for those who feel a bit thirsty or a bit peckish even, I would like to invite you for a small reception here at the left side of the stage, your right side, obviously. So cheers to you all, and thank you once again for coming. Bye-bye.